Airbnb reported earnings last week, and the numbers were pretty solid, continue to grow steadily, expecting more growth in 2024, and has now just become a cash machine with very high margins, very good balance sheet. So just a rock solid business. But what I really took away from the call was CEO Brian Chesky's discussions about what Airbnb is going to do next. He's been talking for a few quarters now about moving beyond the core. So beyond the core short-term rental business, I don't mean just moving into a little bit longer-term rentals or into new markets. Those are natural ways where they can expand the business. But he's now talking about artificial intelligence as a potential tailwind and fundamentally changing the way that Airbnb operates its business. This could be a major change for Airbnb, a major strategy shift, and the company that you see in 10 years may look very different than the company you see today. So that's what I want to dig into. We don't know exactly what the announcements are going to be, but I'm going to go through a quote from the conference call because I think it's telling about what Airbnb is building, what the vision that Brian Chesky has for the future. And then later in 2024, they're expecting to announce what those products actually look like. My name is Travis Hoyam. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. So I'm going to go to a quote, and this is kind of a lengthy quote, but I think the context here is really important for investors about how Airbnb and Chesky are thinking about artificial intelligence, where they fit in that ecosystem, and then how they're ultimately going to change the business based on what AI can do for Airbnb. This first quote is just about where Airbnb sits in the ecosystem. Airbnb is not an infrastructure company. It's not an AI model company. So they're not going to be building GPUs or designing models. They're going to leave that to companies like OpenAI, Google, Meta. These are companies that were specifically called out. So we don't know exactly which one they're going to be working with or dealing with, but we know that Airbnb is not going to get into the AI modeling business, and that makes a lot of sense. But just understanding where they fit in that infrastructure is important. This next piece is said where Airbnb can excel is the application layer. And this is where you're taking artificial intelligence, you're actually turning it into something that you can use as a business or that consumers can interact with. So Chesky thinks that they can build one of the leading and most innovative AI interfaces ever, compares what has been built through ChatGPT and Google to kind of poor model interfaces. They haven't really changed the way that we're interfacing with AI, and goes through some background on that, but ultimately says that this is going to be a platform shift. And the kind of platform shift that he is talking about is previously the shift from PCs to mobile, and now mobile to artificial intelligence. So what exactly does that look like? Well, that's what we're in the process of figuring out right now. And companies like Airbnb are trying to figure out how they fit in that ecosystem. So he sees a shift in power when there is a platform shift because there's a shift in behavior. That makes a lot of sense because we have historical precedent for that. But where he sees Airbnb adding value is an experience that's so much more personalized than anything you've ever seen before. He goes on to say, imagine an app that you feel like knows you. It's the ultimate concierge, an interface that is adaptive and evolving and changing in real time, unlike any interface you've ever seen before. That would allow us to go from being a single vertical company to a cross-vertical company. Now, there is a lot there, but there's two pieces that I want to take away from that. The first is the concierge piece, and the second is the multiple verticals piece. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. Now, when you think about Airbnb as a concierge, I think this makes a lot of sense. A concierge, or if you ever worked with a travel agent, they're going to plan out your entire trip and tell you all of the details that you need along the way. So not only where you're going to stay, that would be kind of where Airbnb lives now, but also plan your flights, who's going to pick you up from the airport, are you doing any excursions on your trip, do you need to have your Airbnb stocked with food when you get there? There's all kinds of pieces that could go into somebody being a concierge or a digital concierge for the future of travel. So I think that's really fascinating to think about because this would expand Airbnb into areas where it doesn't currently operate. You're not currently booking a lot of experiences on Airbnb. You're not booking flights on Airbnb. But this would be an opportunity for Airbnb to kind of move into those verticals where currently you're working with Booking.com or Expedia or even Google, companies like that. So that's where you get to moving into different verticals. And that's where you can see Airbnb's business expanding. So now you're expanding basically how much you're booking with these customers. Instead of just booking one small piece of a trip, you could book the entire trip with Airbnb. So that's what Chesky is talking about with multiple verticals, or at least that's what I'm reading into this. And it's very possible that you could do that with a single interface and an interface that knows you relatively well. So now the concierge, this AI agent, could know that you like to fly in the mornings, you're traveling with a family, you need to have an SUV, you want to have a private driver pick you up. These are all things that travel agents or concierges typically handle, but they don't necessarily have to be handled that way. So many of these aspects have now moved to digital experiences. We book air travel online. We book Uber rides or Lyft rides online. We book hotels online. We book excursions like rafting trips or lift tickets. All of these things are done online. They're all digital. And what you want if you're Airbnb is you want to say, hey, we could handle all of this and plan out your trip for you and just do everything in the background. The other thing that I think could be really interesting is if there's something that happens in your trip, could all of that happen in the background as well? So your flight gets delayed. Can that cascade down and change your booking reservation or where you're going to get picked up? How many days you have to pay for a rental car? All of those kinds of things could be known in the background if you're booking with one company. So this is really the first time that we got a little bit of detail on how Chesky's thinking about Airbnb in the future. But I like that the vision for the company gets a lot bigger if you're including artificial intelligence. And this is naturally a company that could become the digital concierge for travel in the future. So I love that it expands the business and increases the amount of value that you're adding to customers. I think that's a phenomenal fit for Airbnb. And the interesting thing is that Chesky is leading this. And Chesky is not a programmer. He's not a typical Silicon Valley founder or CEO. He's an industrial designer. So that's one of the reasons that Airbnb's is so design focused, the way that you're interfacing with the app or the website, the way that their investor presentations look. It all has a look and feel to it that's just better designed than you're going to get from most tech companies. And I think as we move to this future interface that is currently undefined, what better person to be designing the AI interface than somebody like Chesky? We have seen that something like ChatGPT is done very well, but the interface is pretty terrible. So I'm really excited to see what Chesky and the Airbnb team comes up with because I like the vision. And now it's going to come down to what does that user interface look like? I think if he can pull this off well, we have somebody who looks at design in the interface, much the way that Steve Jobs did back when Apple was designing products like AirPods and the original iPhone. So could Chesky have that sort of impact on artificial intelligence design in the future? We will see, but this is a person and a company that I am betting on for the future. I think it's a phenomenal use case and application layer for artificial intelligence. But what do you think about Airbnb and AI concierge moving into more verticals? Love to hear your comments in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.